Hey, speaking of guys that have to sit around and wait for a late tip tonight, what about the head coaches that are doing this? Dave Rose for BYU and Marty Wilson of Pepperdine. Good way to spend some time to make the time pass is come on BYU Sports Nation. We have
Absolutely.
Coach Marty Wilson with us now from Pepperdine. Coach, great to have you with us.
I appreciate you guys having me. This is pretty impressive setup that you guys have, and most importantly, I'm impressed with the production crew you have next door. I was getting stressed out for them just watching all the dynamics and communication they have, and they do a great job.
It takes a village, and we're being told that you can come back anytime you want. Okay,
Appreciate it.
in our area.
Appreciate it.
You mentioned to us that it's 79 degrees in Malibu. It's just a little bit colder in Provo. So what's your reaction to coming back to Provo and to Utah and to a place that you're very familiar with?
Well, you know, when we stepped out of the airport yesterday, I was surprised that it wasn't as cold as expected. I'm good friends of Tim Lacombe and Cody Figure. I spoke with both of those guys the last few days, and Tim assured me that I needed my hat, my beanies, and gloves, and I haven't had to use them yet. I enjoy it, and it's good for our guys to get out of Malibu, get out of Southern California, learn some different areas and different cultures and climates and different things like that. So it's good for us.
You have a unique setup playing BYU because you were at Utah for 4 years. You mentioned the connections with Lacombe and Fugger. How is coaching against BYU different at Pepperdine than it was at Utah?
Well, you don't have the in-state rivalry, the so-called hatred,
The vitriol.
You don't have that, but still, it's a rivalry because it's in the conference, and you're always trying to beat each other. And even though you're friends and you have a lot of respect for each other, when that ball goes up in the air, you act like you don't know those guys. You just like them for that 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Then after the game, you're cordial and nice, and you see them out in recruiting. But it is totally different because you don't have the in-state, the blue versus the red, the Y versus the U, and all those things. So it's a little bit different that way.
What do your boys think about the prospect of playing in the Marriott Center, which is very different than any other venue in the West Coast Conference? Most are between 2,000 and 6,000. You look at the Kennel, but BYU, there are 22,000 people that can fit in there. How do they feel about that?
Well, we talk about it all the time. We talk about all those different things as we travel. We try to prepare our guys in scheduling for situations like that. We played at Iowa, where they have a big arena. We played in Madison Square Garden earlier this year, and the crowd wasn't as large, but the venue was the same. We talk about playing here and possibly having 20+ thousand people, but when it comes down to it, and I tell our team, and some people use it as coach speak, well, those 20,000 people can't come on the floor. So it's going to be 5-on-5. And we have to be disciplined enough and confident enough and poised enough to not let their crowd speed us up or get us rattled.
Let's talk about your team for a minute. 9-5. You guys have played some good teams real tough, even in those losses. What do you think your squad so far this year?
Well, you know what? We're still maturing. Overall, we're a young team. We have no seniors. We play a lot of young guys, and we kind of throw them in the fire. We've played a lot of young guys in the past, Stacy and Jet. Those guys started 3 years ago for us. They're the veterans now, and we rely on them to educate and communicate with our young guys on what to expect. So it's still a process. It's still a learning process. Every day, every practice, every game is a learning process for our guys to take away something from this game and take it to the next game, good or bad, and try not to make those same mistakes. So I'm impressed with our team. I love the fact that we have a great group of guys, that they enjoy each other. They have a lot of respect for each other. They love playing for and with each other, and that's allowed us as coaches to be able to coach them as hard as we can.
A good number of your guys have some real experience beating BYU last year in Firestone Fieldhouse. You knocked off the Cougars. How much does that play into the confidence that they bring into a place like Provo when you face BYU and try and beat them on the road?
Well, it helps when you make shots. We made some shots early, and that gave us some confidence. I watched both of our games from last year on the plane and on the bus yesterday, just to kind of get a feel for the difference of what we did, what we didn't do, and what adjustments we have to make. And obviously we have a lot of different guys, but you go back and watch, and we're going to run the same things. They're going to run the same things. But we talk about those things, and we share it. We'll watch video of, hey, this is how we defended last year. This is how we need to defend again this year. And then understanding their personnel, that it's different. They have a smaller lineup. They shoot the ball better from the perimeter. They're not as big. They don't play through through the middle as much, but we have to adjust accordingly. And their transition, a high-powered offense and the highest scoring team in the country, all those things thrown at you, but we have to stick to the process. We have to stick to our discipline and our principles, and then try to give ourselves a chance to win.
What do you do better than BYU?
Whew.
It's the toughest question I have.
I'll let
Coach.
you know after the game tonight. I don't know. I don't know because they're good. They're really good. Like I said earlier, I have a lot of respect for Dave Rose. I've known him from a distance for a while, and even at Utah, I had a lot of respect for him as a rival, as a coaching rival, and just follow what he's done here and the success that he's done, even through his ups and downs with his health issues. He's been able to keep this program going in the right direction. So it's hard to say, and I would have to spend some time dissecting both sides to know that answer.
I'll try an answer, which brings us to the stat of the day.
Okay.
It's the BYU Sports Nation Stat of the Day.
23.6. Pepperdine's second in the country in three-point field goal percentage defense. This is going to be a fun matchup between a team that makes 9 threes a game, and then you guys only allow 24% from three. How has that happened so far this year?
Well, part of it, a lot of people have asked us that this year compared to last year. Part of it's just having better players, guys that are quicker, more athletic.
It's amazing what happens when you have better players.
If you're
right?
better players, you're a better coach. There's no doubt. But that's a big part of it. Guys that can cover more ground, guys that can do some things after they make a mistake with their quickness, with their athleticism. So I think that's a big part of it. I think a big part of it is our guys understanding personnel. We have a term, KYP, know your personnel, of understanding are they a driver or they're a shooter. Okay?
KYP.
Do you want to
use that?
Do you want to run them off the line, make them bounce it, as opposed to giving them where they just spot up and knock down threes?
Yeah.
So that's a big part of it. And then just understanding where our rotations are. If we're double teaming, if we're trapping, who we're running, who we're rotating to, and then who we're soft close versus a hard close to.
The West Coast Conference, outside of Gonzaga and BYU, it would seem is kind of an open race at this point. I know that all the teams feel like they can compete with everyone, and on any given night, another team can come up and pull off a big win. So for you and Pepperdine, you've played well against some really good teams. Would expect more of the same tonight against BYU. What is your realistic expectation and objective for this team in terms of where you want to finish in the West Coast Conference?
Well, you know what? They always have the rankings, and I tell our guys it doesn't matter where they rate us. We were rated 10 last year. We finished 5th. We're rated 7th this year. Where are we going to finish? Don't know. There's a lot of things that go into that: injuries, illnesses, suspensions, or what have you. So none of those things mean anything. You still have to play the game. Tonight's game will be determined within that rectangle, and who's most disciplined, who's going to make the most shots, who's going to get the crucial stops, who's going to take care of the ball the best, who's going to be physically and mentally the toughest. That's what it's going to come down to. It doesn't come down to the so-called experts evaluating our team and our players, because most of the time they don't know what we have. They don't know what Dave and the other teams in the conference has. So again, it's we have to play the game, and we'll decide after the game who the better team was.
Who's the toughest guy to guard on BYU's team, in your opinion?
I tell you what, they have a lot of guys, and obviously we haven't played them yet. But I've been a Tyler Hall's fan for a long time. We tried to recruit him when I was an assistant at Utah. He can score in a number of ways. He can shoot the three. He can drive it. He can post up. He's just good. And obviously his numbers show that over the years, and teams have to game plan for him, and they have to try to stop him. And that's where I said that's where our discipline comes in. You're not going to shut him out. Okay, he's averaging 22, 23 points consistently for a reason, because he knows how to play. And we just got to make sure he has to work hard for that. So I would say Tyler is the hardest one.
What was his recruitment at Utah like? Did he give you the time of day?
No, he was great. He's a first-class kid, comes from a first-class family. Got to know his dad a little bit.
Did he allow you to do much? Like, hey, you're from Utah? Is
Yeah,
that okay?
Yeah, and it was early in the process.
Yeah.
It was early in the process. Again, it was the respect. His dad came to campus quite a few times.
Great name.
No doubt. And his younger brother, TJ, and my son played together. So I got to know their family a little bit better.
When you were at Utah?
When I was at Utah. They were 9, 10, 11 years old, so they played together. So I got to know their family outside of the recruiting, so it wasn't so stressful. But they were first class. I said we knew it was going to be a tough haul to get them to University of Utah.
So you're going to, in all likelihood, coach against TJ here in a couple of years as well in the WCC.
Yeah.
They grow up fast.
No doubt. And I understand he's about 6'6", and he was a shooter at 10, 11, 12 years old, and I know that's what he does now.
This little redheaded kid that can shoot it, man. He never wins the pregame, but he wins the game.
That's right.
Marty Wilson, the head coach of the Pepperdine Waves, with us on BYU Sports Nation. Coach, you talk about how great your location in terms of the school is. Malibu is a fantastic location. But does anybody ever ask you what the worst part about living in Malibu is?
I've never gotten that.
Is there anything
bad about living in Malibu?
Not the bad part about living in Malibu, and we brag about it in a number of ways. The academics of Pepperdine, the location, the beach, the weather, the community, the type of people that are on campus that generally care about athletes or students as a whole, the faculty that we have. If there's a downfall, that we're near LA and the traffic, but we can get away from the traffic when we need to, and so that's probably the only downfall of living in Malibu.
Traffic
Sounds great.
I think we can live with that. When you look at all that Malibu has to offer. Coach, great insight. We appreciate the time you gave to us today, and good luck tonight against BYU.
All right, appreciate you guys for having me.